There is a single decision that thousands of American retirees are making in 2026 that quietly costs them tens of thousands of dollars. And the cruelest part is they walk away feeling like they made a smart move. They feel relieved. They feel like they finally got what they were owed. And then years later, when the damage is done and the money is long gone, they realize nobody ever told them the one thing that would have changed everything. This isn't about the stock market. It isn't about some risky investment or a scam or a con. It's about a rule sitting right in the middle of Social Security, completely legal, completely public, and completely misunderstood. And once you make the wrong move around it, for most people, it can never be undone. Not next year, not in 10 years, ever. So let me ask you something, and I want you to actually answer it in your head before we go any further. If someone offered you a guaranteed raise of $500 a month, locked in for the rest of your life, no risk, no catch, would you take it? Of course you would. Anybody would. And yet, every single year, millions of people walk right past that exact offer without even seeing it, because it's hidden inside a decision they think they already understand. And by the end of this, you're going to see it clear as day, and you're going to understand exactly how to reach out and grab it instead of letting it slip past you like almost everyone else does. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Frank, because his story is the story of so many people I talk to. Frank worked for 38 years, warehouse work, then a supervisor role, the kind of job where you're on your feet, you're tired, and by the time you hit your early 60s, your body is basically sending you a letter every morning telling you it's had enough. So Frank did what felt completely natural. The moment he turned 62, he walked in and he claimed his Social Security. He figured, I paid into this my whole life, I'm exhausted, I'm going to start collecting what's mine. And honestly, in that moment, it felt like the right call. It felt like relief. His first check came in, and even though it was smaller than he'd hoped, he told himself, well, that's just what I get. That's the number. And he settled in and got on with his life. Here's the surprise, the thing Frank didn't find out until years later when his daughter sat down and actually did the math with him. That decision to claim at 62 didn't just give him a slightly smaller check, it cut his benefit by around 30% permanently for the rest of his life. Not for a few years. Forever. And it gets worse, because that reduced number became the base that every future increase was calculated from, so the gap between what he got and what he could have had didn't stay the same, it actually widened a little more every single year. Frank had unknowingly signed away, over the course of his retirement, well over $100,000, and he had no idea. He thought he'd made a responsible choice. He'd actually made one of the most expensive ones available to him. So let me explain why this happens. Because once you understand the mechanics, you'll never look at this the same way. The whole thing hinges on one number that most Americans get wrong, and that number is your full retirement age. For generations, people grew up believing 65 was the magic age. It's baked into our culture, the gold watch, the retirement party at 65. But that is not the number anymore. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. Not 65, 67. And in 2026, the people sitting down to make this exact decision, the folks who are 62, 63, 64 right now, they are squarely in that 67 group. Social Security lets you start as early as 62, sure, but every month you claim before your full retirement age, they shave your check down. Claim at the very earliest point, 62, with a full retirement age of 67, and you're looking at roughly a 30% cut. On a $2,000 benefit, that drops you to around $1,400 a month, $600 a month gone, and it never comes back. That's the machine that quietly took Frank's money, and it's running on tens of thousands of people right now. Now, here's the myth I need to bust, because it's the belief that traps people like Frank in the first place. The myth is that claiming early is the safe move. People genuinely believe that grabbing the money at 62 is the cautious, low-risk choice, and that waiting is the gamble. It feels that way. A bird in the hand, right? But it's backwards. Because Social Security doesn't just stop rewarding you at your full retirement age. If you can hold off past 67, the system actually pays you extra, and it's genuinely generous. For every year you wait past your full retirement age, up until age 70, your benefit grows by about 8% per year. 8% guaranteed, no market risk whatsoever. Wait the full 3 years from 67 to 70, and that's roughly a 24% boost. That same $2,000 check becomes closer to $2,500. That, right there, is the $500 a month raise I asked you about at the start. It was never a fantasy. It's the delayed retirement credit, and it's sitting there for anyone patient enough and informed enough to claim it. The safe, early choice is actually the one that leaves the biggest pile of guaranteed money on the table. And before we go further, if this is already opening your eyes, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button right now, because this is exactly what we do here on Retire Mentor, week after week, taking these confusing, expensive corners of Social Security and Medicare and breaking them down into plain, simple English before they ever get a chance to cost you. It's free, it takes 1 second, and it means the next time one of these rules is about to bite, you hear it from me first. All right, let's keep going, because there's a second story I need to tell you, and this one catches even the careful people. Let me tell you about a woman I'll call Linda. Now Linda was sharp. Unlike Frank, she'd actually heard that waiting could increase her benefits, so she felt pretty confident. But Linda wasn't quite ready to fully stop working. She loved her part-time job at a local office. It kept her busy, it gave her purpose, and it brought in some extra cash. So she came up with what she thought was the perfect plan. She claimed her Social Security early, before her full retirement age, and she kept working part-time on top of it. Double income, she thought. The best of both worlds. And for the first few months, it felt brilliant. Then one day, her Social Security check came in far smaller than expected. The next one was smaller still. She was convinced there'd been some kind of error, a computer glitch. Someone had made a mistake with her account. She hadn't. She'd run headfirst into the one rule that ambushes more working retirees than anything else, and she never saw it coming. So here's your practical tip, and this is the one I want you to write down because it's the exact trap Linda fell into. It's called the retirement earnings test. If you claim Social Security before your full retirement age and you keep working and you earn above a certain limit, Social Security starts withholding part of your benefit. In recent years, that annual limit has sat just above $23,000 for people who are under full retirement age all year, and it nudges up a little each year. So in 2026, it's right around that same neighborhood, a touch higher. And here's the sting that got Linda. For every $2 you earn over that limit, they hold back $1 of your benefits. So if you go $10,000 over the limit, that's $5,000 of your Social Security withheld in a single year. So the practical tip is this. If you plan to keep earning real income, be extremely careful about claiming before your full retirement age, because the earnings test can quietly gut the very checks you were counting on. And here's the clean part, the piece that makes the decision simple. The moment you reach your full retirement age, that earnings test vanishes completely. Gone. After that, you can earn as much as you want, $1 million if you can swing it, and not a single dollar of your benefit gets withheld. Now, quick pause because I genuinely want to hear from you on this one. Drop a comment down below and tell me, are you planning to keep working after you claim, like Linda, or are you aiming to fully retire first, like Frank thought he had to? I read these comments, every one of them, and your answers shape the videos I make next. So tell me right now in the comments, working or fully retiring, I really do want to know where you stand. But here's the cliffhanger, and I need you to stay with me because everything I've told you about Linda so far sounds like a disaster. Like the system just robbed her for the crime of staying productive. And that's exactly what she believed too. She was furious. She felt punished for doing the responsible thing. But there is a twist to Linda's story that almost nobody knows about, a hidden mechanism buried inside that very same earnings test. And once she understood it, her entire panic turned into something else entirely. Because that withheld money was not necessarily as gone as Frank's 30% cut was, not even close. Let me explain what actually happened to Linda's money. Here's the part they never put on the front page. The earnings test is not a true permanent penalty the way early claiming is. When Social Security withholds those benefits because you're working, they don't just pocket that money and walk away. Once you reach your full retirement age, they go back and recalculate your benefit, and they give you credit for the months where your check was withheld. In plain English, they raise your monthly payment going forward to make up for what they held back. So over the rest of Linda's retirement, a real chunk of that withheld money finds its way back to her through a higher check. Now, does that make the earnings test harmless? Not entirely, because in the moment, it can absolutely wreck your monthly cash flow, and if you don't live long enough to collect those higher adjusted payments down the road, you don't fully get it all back. But understanding this flips the whole decision on its head. It means the real question was never just, will they take my money? It's, does it even make sense for me to claim early while I'm still bringing in a real paycheck? And for a huge number of people, once they truly see this rule, the honest answer is no. They're far better off waiting until they've stopped working or hit full retirement age, where the earnings test simply disappears and the whole problem evaporates. And this is where the bigger picture finally comes into focus, the thing I really want you to carry with you long after this video ends. The reason this rule quietly costs regular, hardworking people so much money is not because Social Security is evil or out to get you. It's because the entire system is built around defaults and easy buttons that happen to favor the person who doesn't ask questions. The path of least resistance, the just start it now option, is almost always the more expensive one over a full lifetime. Nobody stops you at the counter to say, "Are you sure?" Because if you wait 3 more years, your check jumps 24% forever. Nobody sends you a warning that says, "Careful, keep working, and the earnings test is going to hit." The system just quietly processes whatever you asked for and moves on. The knowledge is technically public, it's all written down somewhere, but it is never delivered to you at the one moment you actually need it. And that gap between what you could know and what you're actually told, that is exactly where the money slips away from good people every single year. There's one more layer to this that makes it matter even more, and it's the piece couples almost always miss. If you're married, your claiming decision doesn't just land on you, it echoes onto your spouse, possibly for years after you're gone. Here's the mechanism most people never hear. When one spouse passes away, the survivor generally keeps the larger of the two benefits, not both, just the larger one. So if you're the higher earner and you lock in that reduced early check like Frank did, you're not only shrinking your own benefit, you may be permanently shrinking the income your husband or wife has to live on after you're gone. Turn that around, and it becomes a powerful strategy. If the higher earner waits and grows that benefit as large as possible, you're essentially buying a bigger, guaranteed, inflation-protected income for whichever one of you lives longer. For a married couple, that single insight can be worth a small fortune over the years, and once again, almost nobody has it explained to them at the moment it actually counts. Now, I want to be fair and honest with you because there is a real counter-argument here, and I'm not going to pretend it doesn't exist. Some of you are thinking, that's fine, but I don't know how long I'm going to live. And if I keep waiting for the bigger check, I might not be around to enjoy it. And you are absolutely right to raise that. This is the idea of your break-even age, the point where waiting for the larger check finally overtakes the total you'd have collected by starting early. For a lot of people, that crossover lands somewhere in the late 70s to around 80. So if you have a serious health condition or a family history that makes a long life genuinely unlikely, then claiming earlier can be the smarter, more rational choice for your specific situation. And I would never tell you otherwise. The whole point was never to blindly wait until 70, no matter what. The point is that this should be a real, informed choice based on your health, your savings, your family, and your income needs, not an accident that just happens to you because you never knew the rule existed. Frank's mistake wasn't claiming early. Frank's mistake was claiming early without ever knowing what he was giving up. So let's turn all of this into something you can actually hold in your hands and use. First, know your real full retirement age and understand that in 2026, for most people making this decision, it's 67, not 65. That's your anchor for everything. Second, understand in your bones that claiming at 62 locks and a permanent cut of around 30% while waiting towards 70 grows your check by roughly 8% for every year past full retirement age. Third, if you're going to keep working while collecting, respect the earnings test, know it kicks in above that limit before full retirement age, and know that once you reach full retirement age, it disappears entirely. Fourth, think honestly about your health and get a rough sense of where your break-even point sits, so you're making a real decision instead of a hopeful guess. And fifth, if you're married, coordinate, because the higher earner's choice shapes the survivor benefit that may support your spouse for a decade or more. 5 moves. That's the entire framework, and just understanding those 5 things puts you miles ahead of almost everyone else walking into this decision in 2026. And here's the payoff, the real reward for sticking with me all the way through this. The people losing thousands of dollars on Social Security are not foolish, and they are not careless. They're frank. They're Linda. They're ordinary, hardworking Americans who were simply uninformed at the exact moment the biggest financial decision of their retirement got made. That was the only thing separating them from the money they deserved. Information delivered at the right time, and you now have it. You walked in today maybe thinking 65 was the number, maybe thinking early was safe, maybe never having heard of the earnings test at all, and you're walking out understanding this better than the vast majority of people will ever bother to. That knowledge is not abstract. It is worth real, tangible money in your pocket, potentially tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime, and it's yours now. So here's my one simple ask. If even a single thing in this video made something click for you, share it with someone you care about. A spouse, a sibling, a friend, a coworker who's staring down this exact decision right now. Because I promise you, somebody in your life is about to claim Social Security in the next year or two with no idea that any of this exists, and one share from you could genuinely save them thousands of dollars they would otherwise never see again. That's not an exaggeration. That's just how much this one decision matters. Sharing this could honestly be one of the most valuable things you do for someone you love all year. And if you got real value out of this, make sure you're subscribed here to Retire Mentor because we are only getting started. I'll be straight with you, we've barely scratched the surface today because there's another Social Security wrinkle sitting right underneath everything we just talked about, one tied to how taxes can quietly claw back a piece of your benefit depending on your other income in retirement, and it blindsides people completely when that first tax bill lands. That one deserves its own full breakdown, and it's coming very soon, so turn your notifications on so you don't miss it. Because the honest truth is this, the more you understand these rules before you need them, the more of your own money you get to keep. And keeping your money, protecting the retirement you spent your whole life earning, that is what we are all about right here. I'll see you in the next one.